They found the Bible under my mattress at 3:47 in the morning. I know the exact time because I was staring at the clock on my wall, gold-plated, encrusted with tiny diamonds that caught the moonlight filtering through my curtains, when I heard my father's footsteps in the hallway. Heavy. Deliberate. The kind of footsteps that announce punishment before a single word is spoken. My heart stopped. Actually stopped. I felt it freeze in my chest like water turning to ice, because I knew. Somehow, in that moment between sleep and waking, between my old life and whatever hell was coming next, I knew exactly what he had in his hand. The door didn't swing open. It didn't need to. My father moved like a judge entering a courtroom, slow, controlled, savoring the power. When he finally stood in my doorway, his white thobe practically glowing in the darkness, I saw it. The leather cover. The golden cross embossed on the front. My Bible. The one I'd been reading every night for 3 months, whispering the words of Jesus into the suffocating silence of my gilded prison. Baba, I can explain, the words died in my throat. His eyes. I need you to understand something about my father's eyes. They weren't angry. Anger would have been mercy. They were empty. Completely, utterly void of anything human. Like staring into a black hole that devoured light itself. You will burn this, he said, his voice flat and cold as a blade. Or I will burn you. But let me take you back. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began, because you need to understand, I wasn't always a woman with a death sentence hanging over her head. I was a princess. An actual Saudi princess. And my cage was made of pure gold. My bedroom was larger than most people's homes. Marble floors imported from Italy, so smooth and cold they felt like walking on frozen mirrors. Crystal chandeliers that cost more than a luxury car, dripping light like diamond rain. My closet, and I'm not exaggerating, was the size of a small boutique, stuffed with designer abayas from Paris, Dior, Chanel, Valentino. Silk that whispered against skin. Perfumes that cost thousands of dollars per ounce. Oud. Rose. Amber. Scents so heavy they clung to you like a second skin. I had everything. And I had nothing. Every morning, I woke to the call to prayer echoing from the mosque across from our palace compound. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. God is great. God is great. The words that had structured my entire existence since I could remember. 5 times a day, we stopped everything to pray. To bow. To press our foreheads to prayer rugs and recite words in Arabic that promised paradise if we obeyed. But here's what no one tells you about paradise promised through obedience. It feels exactly like prison. I was 23 years old, and I had never made a single decision about my own life. Not one. What I wore, chosen. Where I went, controlled. Who I spoke to, monitored. What I thought, if my father could have controlled that too, he would have. Actually, he tried. God knows he tried. My mother moved through our palace like a ghost. Beautiful, draped in designer fabrics, dripping with jewelry, and completely, utterly silent. I can count on one hand the number of times I heard her laugh. Real laughter, I mean. Not the polite, hollow sound she made when my father's business associates came for dinner. Real joy. I never heard it. Not once. She taught me everything I needed to know without ever saying it out loud. How to lower my eyes. How to make myself small. How to survive by becoming invisible. How to smile with your mouth while your soul screamed. I perfected that skill. On the outside, I was the perfect Muslim daughter. Modest. Obedient. Pious. I could recite Quranic verses with perfect tajweed. I prayed 5 times a day, sometimes more. I fasted during Ramadan until my stomach ate itself. I wore my hijab without complaint, later my niqab, until all anyone could see of me were my eyes, and I learned to make even those lie. But inside, I was dying. Have you ever felt that? That suffocating sense that you're disappearing, bit by bit, day by day, until you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back? I did. Every single morning. I remember the exact moment the first crack appeared in my perfect facade. I was sitting in my room, my beautiful, suffocating room, scrolling through my phone. We weren't supposed to have unrestricted internet access, but I'd figured out how to bypass my father's monitoring software. Small rebellions. Tiny gasps of freedom in an ocean of control. I stumbled onto a video. A testimony. A woman, maybe a few years older than me, Middle Eastern like me, speaking directly to the camera. Her face was uncovered, haram, forbidden, and she was crying. But not sad crying. The kind of crying that comes from too much joy to contain. Jesus found me, she said, her voice breaking. In the darkness, he found me. And he told me my name. Something in my chest cracked. Actually cracked. Like ice breaking on a frozen lake. Because no one had ever told me my name. Not really. I was daughter. I was princess. I was sister. But me? The actual me buried under all those titles and expectations and rules? She didn't exist. She had never been allowed to exist. I watched that video 7 times that night. Then I deleted my browser history, cleared my cache, buried my phone under my pillow, and lay awake until dawn, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. Something had shifted. Some door in my soul I didn't even know existed had cracked open just enough to let in a sliver of light. And that terrified me more than anything my father had ever done. Because I knew, even then, in that moment, that once you see light, you can never unsee it. Once you know there might be something beyond your cage, you can never stop looking for the way out. Even if the way out kills you, my father wasn't always a monster. That's the part that makes it worse, somehow. I have memories, faint, faded like old photographs, of him lifting me onto his shoulders when I was 5. Of his rare smile when I recited Quran perfectly. Of his hand, rough but warm, ruffling my hair before I was old enough to cover it. But something changed when I turned 13. It was like a switch flipped. Like he looked at me one day and suddenly saw something dangerous. Something that needed to be controlled, contained, crushed before it could breathe. Maybe he saw my mother's quiet defiance in my eyes. Maybe he saw his own mortality and decided his legacy required absolute obedience. Maybe, and this is what I believe now, maybe he saw a person beginning to form, and persons ask questions, and questions threatened everything he built his empire on. So he set out to kill me. Not my body. My soul. He was methodical about it. Strategic. My father didn't raise his voice, that would have been beneath him. He didn't need to. Power whispered is more terrifying than power screamed. He monitored everything. My phone, checked daily. My room, searched weekly, though I never saw it happen. I just noticed things moved. A book placed differently. A drawer not quite closed the way I'd left it. He wanted me to know I was being watched, even when I couldn't see the eyes. My friends, the few I had, disappeared one by one. Not violently. Just strategically removed. Phone numbers blocked. Families having scheduling conflicts when we tried to arrange visits. Until I was alone. Completely, utterly alone. Just me, my silent mother, and my father's oppressive presence filling every corner of our palace like poisonous gas. The staff feared him. I could see it in how they moved around him, shoulders hunched, voices barely above whispers, eyes fixed on the ground. Our driver, Ahmed, a kind man with gentle eyes who'd worked for our family for 15 years, made the mistake of smiling at me once. Just smiled. A grandfatherly, innocent smile when he opened my car door. He was gone the next day. No explanation. No goodbye. Gone. That's when I understood, my father didn't just control my life. He controlled whether anyone could show me basic human kindness. And he was very, very good at his job. The announcement came on a Thursday. I remember because Thursdays in our household were formal dinner nights. The whole family, my father, my mother, my two older brothers who'd inherited his dead eyes and cold heart, gathering around a table laden with food we barely touched. Lamb. Rice fragrant with saffron. Dates. Pomegranate. A feast that tasted like cardboard in my mouth. My father didn't believe in small talk. Dinner was where he made pronouncements. Business decisions. Family decisions. As if there was any difference between the two. I was pushing rice around my plate, my abaya sleeves pulled over my hands despite the warmth, when he spoke. Amira. My name in his mouth always sounded like an accusation. I have found you a husband. The room tilted. Actually tilted. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself, my knuckles going white. My mother's fork clattered against her plate. Just once. A tiny sound. But in the suffocating silence of that dining room, it sounded like a gunshot. Baba, I started, my voice barely functioning. I don't. Sheikh Abdullah bin Rashid. My father continued as if I hadn't spoken. As if my words were just air, meaningless and weightless. He is 63. Widowed. A man of great standing in the kingdom. He has requested you specifically. 63. I was 23 years old, and my father had just sold me to a man old enough to be my grandfather. He has requested you for your piety, my father continued, cutting into his lamb with surgical precision. Your reputation as a modest, obedient daughter of Islam. You should be honored. Honored. My hands started shaking. I clasped them together in my lap, pressing hard enough to hurt, trying to stop the tremor from spreading through my entire body. How many wives does he have? I whispered. My father's eyes lifted to mine. Slowly. So slowly. And in that gaze, I saw something that froze the blood in my veins. Satisfaction. He was enjoying this. 3, he said. You will be his fourth. His final wife permitted by Islamic law. Again, you should be honored. I don't want. What you want, my father interrupted, his voice dropping to that dangerous whisper, is irrelevant. You are my daughter. You will obey. The wedding is in 6 weeks. 6 weeks. 6 weeks until I became the property of a man I'd never met. The 4th wife in a harem. A breeding mare for an old man's legacy. 6 weeks until every dream I'd never been allowed to have died completely. I looked at my mother. Desperate. Pleading. Surely she would say something. Surely she would. But her eyes were fixed on her plate. Her jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping beneath her skin. And she said nothing. Because she couldn't. Because she'd survived this long by saying nothing. And I was foolish to think she'd risk her own fragile safety for mine. My brothers smirked. Actually smirked. Like watching me get sold off was entertainment. You will meet Sheikh Abdullah next week, my father said, returning to his dinner as if he'd just discussed the weather. You will be respectful. You will be grateful. You will be everything I have raised you to be. I don't remember leaving the table. I don't remember walking to my room. I don't remember anything except the sound of my door closing behind me and my back sliding down against it until I was sitting on that cold marble floor, my whole body shaking so hard my teeth chattered. This was it. This was my future. Sold. Owned. Used. Until I died or he did, and knowing my luck, I'd die first. I cried until I couldn't breathe. Until my abaya was soaked with tears and snot and the kind of grief that comes from watching your own life end while your heart still beats. And then I did what I'd been taught to do my entire life. I prayed. I unrolled my prayer mat, pink, embroidered with gold thread, a gift from my grandmother. I performed wudu with shaking hands, washing my face, my arms, my feet. I oriented myself toward Mecca. And I prostrated myself before Allah. Please, I whispered into the carpet. Please. Don't let this happen. Save me. Change his heart. Send a miracle. Send anything. I've been faithful. I've obeyed. I've done everything right. Please. 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 I prayed until my forehead hurt from pressing against the ground. I recited every prayer I knew. I begged. I bargained. I promised even more obedience, more sacrifice, more devotion if he would just save me from this. Silence. The crushing, absolute silence of an empty room and an absent God. I lifted my head, tears streaming down my face, and stared at the wall. Nothing. No peace. No comfort. No answer. Just me, alone, with a death sentence in the form of a wedding announcement. That night, after midnight, when the palace was silent except for the distant sound of my mother crying in her room, yes, I could hear her, we all could, we just pretended we couldn't, I pulled out my phone. My hands trembled as I typed into the search bar, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might vomit. Jesus save me. I don't know why I typed those words. I don't know what I was expecting. But something in that video I'd watched weeks ago, something in that woman's face, something in the name she'd spoken with such desperate love. I had to know. The results flooded my screen. Testimonies. Bible verses. Prayers. Websites in Arabic, in English, in languages I didn't recognize. And one verse, highlighted at the top of the page, seemed to glow. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11 verse 28. Rest. I hadn't felt rest in years. Maybe ever. I clicked the link. And I started reading. And I couldn't stop. For the next 2 weeks, I lived 2 lives. In the daylight, I was the perfect daughter. I met Sheikh Abdullah, and I need you to understand what that meeting did to me. He looked at me the way men look at cars they're considering purchasing. Evaluating. Calculating. His hands, when he shook my father's hand, were spotted with age. Liver spots. Old man hands. Those would touch me. Own me. He didn't speak to me directly. Not once. I wasn't a person to him. I was an acquisition. I smiled. I lowered my eyes. I served tea with steady hands even though everything inside me was screaming. And when he left, my father actually patted my shoulder, the first physical affection he'd shown me in years, and said, "Well done. Well done." Like I was a performing animal who'd executed a trick correctly. But at night, I became someone else entirely. I would wait until the palace fell silent. Until I could hear the security guard's footsteps fade as he made his rounds. Until the light under my parents' door went dark. And then I would pull my phone from its hiding place. I'd started keeping it in a small cavity behind my bookshelf, wrapped in cloth to muffle any sound, and I would read. The Bible. The New Testament. I'd found a digital copy in Arabic, and I devoured it like a starving person discovering food. Listen to me carefully, because this is important. I didn't approach it like a scholar. I didn't analyze it academically. I read it like a drowning woman grasping for anything that might float. And what I found there, it confused me. It terrified me. And it wouldn't let me go. In Islam, I'd been taught that God, Allah, was distant. Powerful. Absolutely sovereign. We didn't have a relationship with Allah. We had submission. Obedience. Fear. We prayed because we had to, not because He wanted to hear from us specifically. We were servants. Slaves, actually, the word Muslim means one who submits. And I was good at submitting. I'd had 23 years of practice. But Jesus? Jesus spoke differently. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends. John 15 verse 15. Friends. I read that verse 10 times in a row, my phone screen glowing in the darkness, tears dripping onto the glass. Friends. Not slaves. Not servants. Friends. When did Allah ever call anyone His friend? And the more I read, the more the differences piled up like stones, building a wall between everything I'd known and everything this book was showing me. In the Quran, Jesus, Isa, was just a prophet. Important, yes. Respected, yes. but just a man. A messenger. Nothing more. But in this book, in his own words, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. John 14 verse 6. That wasn't a prophet talking. That was God himself. Either Jesus was who he claimed to be, or he was a lunatic. There was no middle ground. And if he was who he claimed to be, then everything I'd built my life on was a lie. I tried to reconcile it. God knows I tried. I would pray to Allah, still performing my 5 daily prayers, still going through the motions because to stop would invite questions I couldn't answer. I would prostrate myself on my prayer mat, forehead pressed to the ground, and I would beg him to speak to me. Show me the truth, I whispered in Arabic, my lips barely moving. If Jesus is just a prophet, show me. If Islam is the truth, confirm it. I'll obey. I'll marry Sheikh Abdullah. I'll do whatever you want. Just, please, speak to me. Silence. The same crushing, suffocating silence I'd lived with my entire life. It felt like praying to a stone wall. Words going out into the void and hitting nothing. No echo. No response. Just my own voice bouncing back at me, mocking my desperation. I performed wudu obsessively. Maybe I wasn't clean enough. Maybe that's why he wouldn't answer. I washed my hands, my face, my arms, my feet 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, until my skin was raw. Nothing. I fasted. Not just during Ramadan, but extra days. Voluntary fasts. Mondays and Thursdays. Depriving my body, hoping deprivation would somehow make me worthy of an answer. Nothing. I read more Quran. I'd already memorized large portions as a child, but I went back through it, searching desperately for something, anything, that would give me the certainty I needed. But instead, I found things that made my stomach turn. Verses about women. How our testimony is worth half that of a man's. How men are our guardians, our controllers. How disobedient wives should be beaten, actually beaten. The word was right there, no matter how modern Muslims tried to soften it. Men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other and what they spend, for maintenance, from their wealth. So righteous women are devoutly obedient, guarding in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. But those wives from whom you fear arrogance, first advise them, then if they persist, forsake them in bed, and, finally, strike them. Quran 4:34. Strike them. I thought of my mother. Silent. Terrified. Her whole life spent making herself small enough to avoid being hit. I thought of Sheikh Abdullah's 3 existing wives. How young had they been when he married them? Had they wanted it? Or had they, like me, been sold like livestock? And I thought, is this really from God? Would God, the creator of the universe, really design half of humanity to be property? The nightmares started around the 3rd week. I would dream I was drowning. Sinking in dark water, weighted down by chains. I could see the surface above me, see the light filtering through, see freedom just out of reach. And I would scream in my dreams, I could scream unlike in waking life, and no one would come. I'd wake up gasping, my pillow soaked with sweat, my heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape my chest. Other nights, I'd dream of the wedding. Of walking toward Sheikh Abdullah, my dress getting heavier with each step, turning into stone, until I couldn't move at all. Until I was just a statue in a wedding dress, frozen forever in a moment of perfect obedience. I stopped eating. Food tasted like ash. My mother noticed, of course she noticed, but she said nothing. Just looked at me with those sad, knowing eyes that said, I survived this. So will you. But I didn't want to survive. I wanted to live. There's a difference. A massive, critical difference that no one in my family understood. One night, 12 days before my wedding, I'd been counting down like a prisoner marking days until execution. I had a complete breakdown. It was 2 a.m. I'd been reading the Gospel of John, reading about Jesus healing the blind man, when something inside me just shattered. I shoved my phone under my pillow and I started to shake. My whole body convulsing with sobs I couldn't control. I pressed my face into my pillow to muffle the sound, screaming into the fabric until my throat was raw. I can't do this. I sobbed. I can't. I can't. I can't. I pulled my knees to my chest, rocking back and forth on my bed, my perfectly made bed with its silk sheets and designer pillows, in my perfect room in my perfect prison. And I prayed. But not to Allah. I couldn't anymore. That door felt permanently closed. Instead, in a whisper so quiet I could barely hear myself, I spoke to Jesus. I don't know if you're real, I breathed into the darkness. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't even know if I'm allowed to pray to you. But if you are real, if you really love people the way that book says you do, then please. Please. I'm drowning. I'm dying. And I don't know what else to do. My voice broke. Fresh tears streaming down my face. If you're really there, prove it. Show me. Save me. Because I can't save myself. The silence that followed felt different than the silence after praying to Allah. It didn't feel empty. It felt expectant. Like the moment before dawn when the sky is still dark but you know, somehow, that light is coming. I waited. My breath slowing. My tears stopping. My body exhausted but somehow, alert. I didn't hear a voice. There was no burning bush or writing on the wall. But I felt something. A presence. A warmth in my chest that hadn't been there a moment before. So subtle I might have imagined it. Except I knew I didn't. I fell asleep like that, curled up on my bed, tear-stained and exhausted, with the strangest sensation that I wasn't alone anymore. That maybe, just maybe, someone had actually heard me. The next morning, I woke up different. I can't explain it better than that. Same room. Same marble floors. Same golden cage. But something inside me had shifted. Like a lock turning. Like a door that had been rusted shut for decades suddenly creaking open just wide enough to slip through. I needed more. Reading the Bible on my phone in the dark wasn't enough anymore. I needed to hold it. Touch it. Make it real in a way that digital words on a glowing screen couldn't be. But how does a Saudi princess in Riyadh get a physical Bible? You don't just walk into a bookstore. There are no Christian bookstores in Saudi Arabia. Bringing a Bible into the kingdom is illegal, actually illegal. People have been arrested, deported, worse. The religious police, the Mutaween, they don't play games with this stuff. But I was desperate. And desperation makes you brave in ways that safety never could. I remembered something. A conversation I'd overheard years ago, when I was maybe 17. My father had been entertaining Western businessmen, oil executives, I think. They'd been talking in the majlis while I served tea, invisible as furniture, the way good Muslim daughters should be. One of them, an American with kind eyes, had mentioned finding an underground church in Riyadh. He'd laughed when he said it, like it was absurd and fascinating all at once. My father had warned him, politely but firmly, that such things were dangerous to pursue in the kingdom. Underground church. The words had stuck with me. Planted themselves in my memory like seeds waiting for the right season to grow. I started searching. Carefully. Using VPN software I downloaded months ago for different reasons, to watch Western movies, to access social media my father blocked. Now I used it for something far more dangerous. Secret Christians Saudi Arabia. Underground Church Riyadh. How to get Bible Middle East. The search results were terrifying and illuminating in equal measure. Stories of house churches meeting in secret. Expatriate Christians gathering in compounds under the guise of social clubs. Testimonies from converts who'd risked everything. And then I found it. A forum. Encrypted. Anonymous. Where people in restricted countries could connect with believers. My hands shook as I created an account. I typed slowly, in English, terrified even through layers of digital security that somehow my father would know. I'm in Riyadh. I need help. I need a Bible. Please. I hit send and immediately wanted to vomit. What had I just done? What if this was a trap? What if the religious police monitored these sites? What if? My phone buzzed. A response. Already. Sister, we see you. We're praying for you. Check your messages. A private message appeared. Instructions. Vague enough to protect everyone involved, specific enough to give me hope. There was a coffee shop, a Western-style cafe in one of the expat compounds. On Thursdays, between 2 and 4 p.m., a woman with red glasses would be sitting in the back corner reading a book. If I sat near her and ordered a cappuccino, she would leave her bag when she got up. In that bag, wrapped in a scarf, would be what I needed. It felt like a spy movie. Absurd. Dangerous. Possibly a trap. I decided to go anyway. Convincing my driver to take me to that compound was easier than I expected. I told him I was meeting a potential wedding planner, an expat woman who specialized in modern Islamic weddings. I made my voice light, excited even, like I'd accepted my fate. He believed me. Why wouldn't he? I'd been so perfectly obedient my entire life. The cafe was small. Western music played softly, something that would never be allowed in a traditional Saudi establishment. I could smell coffee, real coffee, not the Arabic coffee we served at home. And pastries. Chocolate. Sugar. And there she was. Red glasses. Sitting in the back corner with a book. She looked completely ordinary. Filipino, maybe. Or Indonesian. wearing a simple hijab, jeans, a modest tunic. Our eyes met for just a second. She didn't smile, didn't nod, just went back to her book. I ordered a cappuccino with a voice that didn't sound like mine. My hands were shaking so badly I had to clasp them together. I sat 2 tables away from her, my back to the wall, my abaya pulled tight around me even though it was warm. 15 minutes passed. 20. I sipped my coffee. It tasted like fear and hope mixed together. Then she stood, gathered her things, left her bag on the chair. She walked out. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, drowning out the music, drowning out the chatter of other customers. I stood, walked to her table, picked up the bag like it was mine, like I'd simply forgotten it. No one looked at me. No one cared. I walked out into the brutal Saudi sun, clutching that bag to my chest like it contained my own beating heart. Because in a way, it did. I didn't open it until I was back in my room. Door locked. Window curtains drawn. Phone face down on my nightstand so the camera couldn't see. My hands trembled as I unzipped the bag. Inside, wrapped in a plain black scarf, was a book. Small. Leather-bound. Worn edges like it had been read 1,000 times. The cover was blank, no cross, no title, nothing that would identify it as forbidden. I unwrapped it slowly. Reverently. A Bible. Arabic and English in parallel columns. So I could understand every word in both languages. And tucked inside the front cover, a handwritten note on plain paper. You are not alone. He sees you. He loves you. He will never leave you. Burn this note. Hide this book. Read John first. We are praying. Your sister in Christ. I read that note 5 times before my tears made the ink run. Then I burned it in my bathroom sink, washing the ashes down the drain, destroying the evidence. But the Bible? That I kept. I found the perfect hiding place. There was a loose panel behind my closet, part of the wall construction that hadn't been finished properly. I discovered it years ago while hiding diary entries. Now it would hide something far more precious. And far more dangerous. That night, I read by the light of my phone's flashlight, the Bible open on my lap, a blanket pulled over my head to hide the glow. I started with John, like the note said. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. My mind immediately went to the Quran's beginning, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Different. Completely different. Islam started with submission. Christianity started with a person. The Word. Capital W, Jesus. I kept reading. Devouring the words like they were water, and I'd been crawling through a desert. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. God became flesh. God became human. God stepped down from heaven into dirt and dust and human skin. In Islam, that was shirk. Blasphemy. The unforgivable sin. Allah was so transcendent, so distant, so utterly other that to suggest he would become human was to insult him in the worst possible way. But here it wasn't an insult. It was love. God loved humanity so much he became one of us. I had to stop reading. Put the Bible down. Breathe. Because my entire theological foundation was crumbling like sand castles at high tide. Over the next week, 8 days until my wedding now, 7, 6, I read obsessively. I read about Jesus touching lepers. Unclean people. People that religious law said he should avoid. But he touched them. Healed them. Loved them. I read about Jesus defending the woman caught in adultery. The religious leaders wanted to stone her, exactly like Sharia law would demand. But Jesus said, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." They all walked away. Every single one. And then Jesus told her, "Neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin." No condemnation. Just love and a call to transformation. I read about Jesus with the Samaritan woman at the well. A woman. A foreign woman. A woman with a scandalous past. And he spoke to her. Offered her living water. Told her about worship that wasn't about location or ritual but about spirit and truth. Every story cut deeper. Every teaching stripped away another layer of the religious system I'd been suffocating under. And then I reached John 8 verse 32. I read it once. Twice. 3 times. Until the words were burned into my brain. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Free. I'd never been free. Not once in my entire life. I'd been owned. Controlled. Contained. First by my family, soon by my husband. My whole existence was chains, just chains made of gold and covered in silk. But Jesus was offering freedom. Not someday. Not in Jannah, paradise, if I was good enough. Not after death if I'd prayed enough and obeyed enough and submitted enough. Now. Truth. Freedom. Now. I closed the Bible. Pressed it against my chest. And I whispered into the darkness of my room. I want to be free. But wanting freedom and obtaining it are two very different things. For days before my wedding, I had the nightmare again. Drowning. Chains. Darkness. But this time, when I looked up toward the surface, I saw a hand reaching down through the water. Scarred. Nail-pierced. I reached for it. My fingers brushed his. And I woke up. Gasping. Sweating. My heart racing. But not afraid. Something was coming. I could feel it. Like the pressure before a storm. Like the moment before an earthquake when animals sense danger and flee. Something was about to break. The question was, would it be my chains? Or would it be me? 3 days before my wedding, I stopped sleeping. Not by choice. My body simply refused. I would lie in bed, exhausted to my bones, and my eyes would stay open. Staring at the ceiling. Counting the minutes until dawn. Until I had to put on my mask again and pretend I was a willing bride instead of a lamb being led to slaughter. The wedding preparations were in full swing. The palace hummed with activity, caterers, decorators, seamstresses. My mother kept bringing me fabric swatches and jewelry options, her eyes begging me to just cooperate, just survive this like she had survived it. But I couldn't. Something inside me had broken. Or maybe it had finally come alive. Either way, I couldn't pretend anymore. Sheikh Abdullah had sent gifts. A diamond necklace that probably cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. Perfume from Paris. A new abaya, cream-colored silk embroidered with real gold thread, for me to wear on our wedding night. I looked at that abaya and wanted to set it on fire. Instead, I hid it in the back of my closet and pulled out my Bible. It was 2:47 a.m. I know because I'd been watching the clock, watching my life tick away in seconds and minutes and hours I'd never get back. I couldn't stay in bed anymore. I got up, pulled the Bible from its hiding place, and sat on the floor with my back against my bed. The marble was cold through my nightgown, but I needed to feel something. Anything. I opened to the Gospels. I'd been cycling through them, reading the same stories from different perspectives, trying to understand. Trying to know who this Jesus really was. I landed on Mark 5. The story of the demon-possessed man. I'd read it before, but tonight the words hit differently. The man lived in the tombs. Chained. People had tried to bind him, to control him, but he was so tormented he'd break the chains. He'd cry out day and night, cutting himself with stones. I understood him. God help me, I understood him completely. Chained. Tormented. Destroying myself slowly because I couldn't destroy the things that were destroying me. And then Jesus came. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?" Even the demons recognized him. Even they knew who he was. Jesus cast them out. Freed the man. And when people came to see what had happened, they found the formerly demon-possessed man dressed and in his right mind. Free. Whole. Restored. I read that last part again, in his right mind. I wasn't in my right mind. I hadn't been for years. Maybe ever. The pressure, the control, the suffocating fear, it had fractured something in me. Made me a stranger to myself. Jesus, I whispered out loud. First time I'd spoken his name audibly in my room. The word felt dangerous. Powerful. Like speaking a spell that, once cast, couldn't be undone. Jesus, if you're real, if you really do what these stories say you do, I need you. I need you to cast out whatever darkness is in me. In my life. In this place. I need you to free me like you freed that man. Because I'm chained too. And I can't break them myself. My voice cracked. Tears spilled down my cheeks. Please. Please see me. I know I'm not supposed to pray to you. I know it's shirk. I know I could be punished in hell forever for this. But I don't care anymore. I can't marry him. I can't live like this. And if you're who you say you are, if you really love me like this book says. I couldn't finish. Just sobbed. Pressing my face against the Bible, soaking the pages with tears. And that's when everything changed. The air in my room shifted. That's the only way I can describe it. Like the atmospheric pressure changed. Like the space around me became denser. Heavier. But not oppressive, the opposite. Weighty with presence. I lifted my head. Wiped my eyes. My room was dark except for the faint moonlight filtering through a gap in my curtains. But there was light now. Soft. Golden. Coming from nowhere. Everywhere. And I wasn't alone. Listen to me. I need you to understand, I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't hallucinating from lack of sleep. I wasn't having a psychological break. I was more awake, more alert, more present than I had ever been in my entire life. There was someone in my room. I should have been terrified. A stranger in my bedroom in the middle of the night. But I wasn't afraid. Not even a little. Because the presence, the light, it radiated something I'd never felt before. Love. Pure, overwhelming, unconditional love. And then I saw him. Jesus stood at the foot of my bed. Not floating. Not glowing like a cartoon. Just there. Solid. Real. More real than anything else in the room. More real than me. He wore simple robes. White, but not glowing, just clean in a way that made everything else look stained. His hair was dark, falling to his shoulders. His skin was Middle Eastern, like mine. This wasn't some blonde, blue-eyed Western Jesus. This was a Jewish man. A carpenter. Someone who knew dust and work and sweat. But his eyes. God help me, his eyes. I'd spent my whole life around powerful men. Men with dead eyes. Cold eyes. Eyes that calculated and controlled and condemned. Jesus' eyes were alive. Burning with an intensity that should have been terrifying but instead felt like coming home. Like every lost piece of me suddenly remembered where it belonged. He looked at me, directly at me, and I felt seen for the first time in my life. Not evaluated. Not judged. Not measured for my usefulness or my obedience. Seen. Known. Loved. I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. He smiled. Gentle. Sad. Like he knew exactly what I'd been through. Like he'd been there for every moment of suffering I'd endured in this golden cage. And then he spoke. His voice wasn't loud. Didn't echo. But it filled the room, filled my chest, filled every empty space inside me that had been screaming into the void for 23 years. Amira. My name. He said my name. Not daughter. Not princess. Not any of the titles I'd been reduced to. My name. Like it mattered. Like I mattered. I started shaking. My whole body trembling like I was freezing and burning at the same time. I see you, Jesus said. I have always seen you. Every tear you've cried in the darkness, I caught them. Every prayer you've whispered, I heard them. Every moment you thought you were alone, I was there. But you didn't answer, I choked out. My voice barely worked. I prayed. For years. To Allah. And he never. You were calling the wrong name, Jesus said gently. Not condemning. Just stating truth. You were speaking to a concept, a system, a religion. Not to me. Not to your father. Father? The word felt foreign in my mouth. Allah wasn't a father. Allah was Master, Lord, Sovereign. Distant. Unreachable. Father, Jesus repeated. He moved closer. Not walking exactly, just present at my bedside where a moment before he'd been at the foot of my bed. He loves you, Amira. Not because of what you do or don't do. Not because you're obedient or pious or good enough. He loves you because you're his. Because he made you. Because you bear his image. I couldn't stop the sob that tore through my chest. But I'm not good enough. I've doubted. I've read forbidden books. I've questioned. You've sought truth, Jesus interrupted. And anyone who seeks me will find me. That's my promise. He knelt beside my bed. Knelt. God in flesh kneeling beside me, a terrified girl on a marble floor. Your chains weren't for me, he said softly. I didn't build this cage. Religion did. Fear did. Men who wanted power did. But me? I came to set the prisoners free. I came to give you life, abundant life. Not survival. Not mere existence. Life. I don't know how long he was there. Time felt meaningless. Like I'd stepped outside of it into some eternal moment where past and future collapsed into an overwhelming present. He told me things. Specific things. Things about my life, my heart, my fears that no one else could have known. He spoke about my mother's pain. About the little girl I'd been before the chains went on. About the woman I was created to be. What do I do? I finally asked. My voice small. Broken. My wedding is in 3 days. My father will kill me if I refuse. Actually kill me. Or lock me away. Or, do you trust me? Jesus asked. It should have been an easy question. He was right there. Physically present. Undeniably real. But trust? Trust meant letting go. Trust meant stepping into the unknown with no guarantee of safety. I'm afraid, I whispered. I know, he said. But perfect love casts out fear. And I love you perfectly. He reached out his hand. I saw the scar. The nail wound. The price he'd paid for what? For people like me? For everyone? Come, he said simply. Follow me. I will lead you out of this darkness. But you have to choose. You have to decide. Will you follow your father's will? Or mine? I looked at his hand. Scarred. Strong. Steady. And I took it. The moment my hand touched his, warmth flooded through me. Like liquid light pouring into every broken place. Every wound. Every scar. Not erasing them, but filling them. Redeeming them. I felt something break inside me. Actually felt it shatter like glass. The chains. The fear. The crushing weight of 23 years of suffocation. And into that broken space rushed joy. Actual joy. Not happiness based on circumstances, but deep, anchored, unshakable joy that came from being known and loved by God Himself. I started laughing and crying at the same time. A mess of tears and laughter that probably looked insane but felt like the first sane thing I'd ever experienced. I'm free, I breathed. I'm actually free. Not yet, Jesus said gently. Not physically. Not yet. But in here, He touched my chest, right over my heart. You're already free. And what's freed on the inside will manifest on the outside. Trust me. Obey me. And watch what I do. What do I do? I asked again. At the wedding. What do I? You'll know, He said. When the moment comes, you'll know. I'll give you the words. I'll give you the courage. I'll give you everything you need. Just trust me. I nodded. Couldn't speak. Could barely see through my tears. Jesus stood. Looked at me with those burning, beautiful eyes one more time. You're mine, Amira. You always have been. And no one can snatch you out of my hand. Remember that. In the darkness, remember that. And then He was gone. Not fading. Not dissolving. Just gone. Like He'd stepped out of my room into another dimension. But the light remained. Not visible anymore, but I could feel it. Inside me. Burning. Constant. A flame that nothing could extinguish. I sat on that floor until dawn broke through my windows. I opened my Bible to wherever it fell open. Romans 8. My eyes landed on verses 38 to 39. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation, will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. I read it out loud. Whispered it like a promise. Like a vow. Nothing could separate me from His love. Not my father. Not Sheikh Abdullah. Not the religious police. Not even death itself. I was free. And in 3 days, at my wedding, the whole world was going to find out. The next 2 days passed like a dream. Or maybe a nightmare preparing to become a resurrection. I moved through the wedding preparations like a ghost. Smiling when expected. Nodding when spoken to. But inside, I was burning. That flame Jesus had lit in my chest wouldn't stop growing. It consumed fear. It consumed doubt. It consumed every carefully constructed defense mechanism I'd built to survive in my father's house. My mother knew something had changed. She kept looking at me with these worried, confused eyes. Like I was a bomb she could hear ticking but couldn't defuse. She was right to be worried. The night before my wedding, she came to my room. Knocked softly. Entered without waiting for an answer. This was still her house, after all. Still her domain where she'd learned to survive by becoming invisible. Amira, she said, sitting on the edge of my bed. Her hands twisted in her lap. Tomorrow is a big day. Yes, I said simply. Sheikh Abdullah is a good man. Respected. Wealthy. You'll be cared for. Cared for. Like a pet. Like property. Mama, I said quietly. Were you happy? When you married Baba? Were you happy? Her hands stilled. For a long moment, she didn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Happiness isn't the point. Then what is? She looked at me. Really looked at me. And I saw it, the girl she'd been before marriage. Before children. Before decades of suffocation killed everything in her that knew how to hope. Survival, she said. That's the point. You survive. You obey. You endure. And eventually, you stop hurting because you stop feeling anything at all. That's not life, Mama. That's death. It's the only life we have, she said. Firm now. Desperate. Please, Amira. Please just survive. For me. Don't fight this. Don't do anything foolish. Just survive. I took her hand. Squeezed it gently. I love you, Mama, I said. But I can't die so slowly. Not anymore. She pulled her hand away like I'd burned her. Stood. Walked to the door. Paused. Whatever you're thinking of doing, she said without turning around, don't. Your father will kill you. Actually kill you. And I can't lose you. You already lost me, I said softly. The day you chose silence over protecting me. I love you. But you lost me. She left without another word. I didn't sleep that night either. But I wasn't afraid. I prayed, actually prayed, to Jesus, in conversation like he was right there in the room. And maybe he was. Tomorrow, I whispered into the darkness. You said I'd know what to do. You said you'd give me the words. I'm trusting you. All the way. Whatever happens, I'm yours. Peace. That's what I felt. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of something greater than fear. The presence of him. My wedding day dawned bright and brutal. Saudi sun beating down like judgment itself. The preparations began early. A team of women, stylists, makeup artists, relatives I barely knew, descended on my room like a swarm of bees, buzzing around me, transforming me into the perfect bride. They dressed me in white and gold. A dress that cost more than most people's homes. Diamonds dripping from my neck, my ears, my wrists. My hair was styled in elaborate braids. My face painted until I didn't recognize myself in the mirror. I looked like a princess from a fairy tale. I felt like a corpse being prepared for burial. You look beautiful, someone gushed. I stared at my reflection. At this stranger wearing my face. And I thought, this is the last time. The last time you make me into something I'm not. The wedding was held in the grand hall of our palace compound. Hundreds of guests. Segregated, of course, men on one side, women on another. Music playing. Food laid out in obscene abundance. Gold. Silk. Flowers imported from Dubai. Everything perfect. Everything exactly as it should be according to tradition. Sheikh Abdullah was waiting at the front with the imam. I could see him through the partition. Old. Stern. Satisfied. A man who'd purchased what he wanted and was about to take possession. My father walked me down the aisle. His hand gripped my arm so tight it hurt. Not guiding. Controlling. Making sure I didn't run. "Remember who you are," he hissed in my ear. "Remember what happens to daughters who bring shame." I said nothing. Just walked. One foot in front of the other. The music swelled. People turned to look. Hundreds of eyes watching this beautiful lie. We reached the front. My father released my arm and stepped aside. The imam began speaking. Arabic verses. Quranic recitations about marriage, about obedience, about a woman's role. Sheikh Abdullah smiled. Cold. Possessive. And something inside me snapped. No. Not snapped. Ignited. The flame Jesus had lit in my chest roared to life. Consuming. Purifying. Unstoppable. The imam asked the ritual question, "Do you, Amira bint Abdullah, accept Sheikh Abdullah bin Rashid as your husband according to Islamic law?" This was the moment. The point of no return. Every eye in the room was on me. Waiting for the expected answer. The only acceptable answer. Yes. Just one word. That's all they wanted. One word and this would all be over. I'd be married. Owned. Buried alive in a life of suffocation. But Jesus' words echoed in my mind, "You'll know. When the moment comes, you'll know. I'll give you the words." I looked at Sheikh Abdullah. At my father. At the imam waiting for my compliance. And I opened my mouth. No. The word fell into the silence like a bomb. You could hear it. The collective gasp. The shock rippling through hundreds of people like an earthquake. No, I repeated. Louder. Clearer. I don't accept this marriage. My father's face went white. Then red. Then a purple so dark I thought he might have a stroke right there. "Amira," he started, his voice a deadly whisper. But I wasn't done. "I can't marry him," I said. My voice was shaking but growing stronger with every word. "Because I don't belong to you. I don't belong to him. I belong to Jesus Christ." The gasps turned to shouts. Chaos erupted like I detonated a grenade. "She's lost her mind." Apostasy. Blasphemy. My father lunged for me. Grabbed my arms so hard I felt something crack. His face was inches from mine, eyes blazing with rage I'd never seen before. "You will take that back," he snarled. "Right now. Or I will kill you myself." "Then kill me," I said. Calm. Certain. Because I'd rather die free than live as a slave. He raised his hand to strike me. The whole room watched. No one moved to stop him. This was his right, after all. His property. His daughter to discipline as he saw fit. His hand came down. And stopped. I don't know how to explain what happened next. I don't have words adequate for the supernatural. My father's hand was frozen in midair. like it had hit an invisible wall. He couldn't move it. Couldn't complete the strike. His face contorted with effort and confusion. "What?" he gasped. And then the light came. Not metaphorical. Actual light. Pouring through the windows. Blazing so bright people had to shield their eyes. But it wasn't the sun. The angle was wrong. The intensity was wrong. It was the same light from my room. The same presence. Jesus. He didn't appear physically, not to everyone. But his presence filled that hall like water filling a cup. Undeniable. Overwhelming. Heavy with power and authority. I felt his hand on my shoulder. Invisible to everyone else. But I felt it. Steady. Strong. Protective. And I heard his voice. Not audibly, but in my spirit, clear as a bell. "Tell them." So I did. 3 nights ago, I said, my voice carrying through the chaos, Jesus Christ came to my room. He spoke to me. He told me he loves me. That I'm his. That he came to set prisoners free. And he's setting me free right now. Lies, someone shouted. Demon possession. She needs to be. I have proof, I said. I reached into the folds of my dress. I'd sewn a small pocket there myself. And I pulled out my Bible. The forbidden book. The illegal text. Right there in the middle of hundreds of witnesses. My father's eyes went wide. Not just with rage now. With genuine fear. "Where did you get that?" he breathed. "It doesn't matter," I said. "What matters is what's in it. Truth. Real truth. Not control. Not fear. Not rules that crush the spirit. But love. Actual love. The kind that sacrifices itself for others instead of sacrificing others for itself." I opened it. My hands weren't shaking anymore. The pages fell open to John 8 verse 36. I read it out loud. In Arabic. So everyone could understand. "So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed." "I am free," I declared. "In Jesus' name, I am free. And you can't have me. None of you. I belong to him now." My father found his voice. Found his rage. "Burn it," he commanded. "Burn that book. Right now. Or you will burn." Someone brought fire. A servant, terrified, carrying a small brazier used for incense. My father snatched the Bible from my hands. Held it over the flames. "Renounce this blasphemy," he said. His voice shaking with fury. "Renounce it. Return to Islam. Beg Allah's forgiveness. Or I will throw you in after this book." The entire room held its breath. I looked at the Bible. Then at my father. Then at Jesus, invisible to them, but I could feel him right beside me. "Trust me," his voice whispered in my spirit. "Do it," I said to my father. "Burn it." He dropped the Bible into the flames. And nothing happened. The Bible sat in the fire. Flames licking around it. But the pages didn't catch. The leather didn't char. It just sat there. Untouched. Unburned. Impossible. Someone screamed. My father stumbled backward, staring at the Bible in the fire like it was a serpent. The imam started reciting verses, frantically, trying to counter whatever jinn or magic he thought was at work. But I knew what it was. A miracle. An undeniable, public, witnessed by hundreds miracle. Jesus wasn't just protecting me. He was declaring his power. His reality. His authority over everything, even fire itself. I reached into the brazier. My hand passed through the flames. I felt warmth, nothing more. I pulled out the Bible. Completely intact. Not even warm. I held it up for everyone to see. You can't burn his truth, I said. Tears streaming down my face. Not from fear anymore. From overwhelming gratitude. From awe. You can't destroy it. You can't silence it. Because he is real. Jesus Christ is real. And he's more powerful than all of you combined. The room erupted. Complete pandemonium. People running. Shouting. Some declaring it was magic, others calling it a sign, others demanding my immediate execution. My father stood frozen, staring at me like he didn't recognize me. Because he didn't. The obedient daughter he'd controlled for 23 years was gone. Dead. Resurrected into someone new. Security rushed in. The religious police had been called. I knew what was coming. Arrest. Trial. Possible execution for apostasy. But I wasn't afraid. Because I was free. Truly, finally, gloriously free. And whatever came next, Jesus had already proven he was with me. I looked at my mother in the crowd of women. She was crying. Not angry crying. Something else. Something that looked almost like hope. I looked at Sheikh Abdullah. Terrified. This powerful man, reduced to fear by a miracle he couldn't explain or control. And I looked at my father one last time. I forgive you, I said quietly. For everything. I forgive you. His face crumpled. Just for a second. A flash of something human beneath the monster. Then it was gone. Take her, he ordered the security. Get her out of my sight. As the guards grabbed my arms, as they dragged me away from my ruined wedding, as chaos swirled around me, I felt peace. Perfect, supernatural, impossible peace. Because I'd done it. I'd chosen Jesus. Publicly. Irrevocably. With hundreds of witnesses. And he'd chosen me back. The miracle wasn't just the Bible not burning. The miracle was me, finally, fully alive. They threw me in a room. Not a prison cell, we didn't have those in the palace. But my father's version of one. A storage room in the basement level, windowless, concrete walls, a single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. No furniture. No bathroom. Just 4 walls and a locked door. I sat on the cold floor, still wearing my wedding dress. White silk now stained with dust and sweat. My diamonds still dripping from my neck like a mockery. A princess locked in a dungeon in her own home. And I smiled. I actually smiled. Because I was freer in that concrete cell than I'd ever been in my golden bedroom upstairs. They took my phone, of course. Searched me. Found nothing else. The Bible was still in my hands, and when they tried to take it, something stopped them. Not physically. But every guard who reached for it pulled back like they'd been burned. Eventually, they gave up. So it was just me and God's word in that darkness. And somehow, that was enough. I don't know how long I was there. Hours. Maybe a full day. Time meant nothing in that windowless room. But I wasn't alone. I felt Jesus' presence so strongly it was like he was sitting right there beside me on the concrete. I read by the light of that single bulb. Psalms, mostly. David's words written thousands of years ago but feeling like they'd been written specifically for this moment. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? He brought me out into a spacious place, he rescued me because he delighted in me. That last one broke me. He rescued me because he delighted in me. Not because I was good enough. Not because I'd earned it. Because he delighted in me. Me. Amira. The girl who'd spent 23 years believing she was worthless unless she was obedient. God delighted in me. I wept. Pressed the Bible to my chest. And I worshipped. In a locked room, wearing a ruined wedding dress, facing possible execution, I worshipped. Because for the first time in my life, I was worshipping someone who loved me back. The door opened. I don't know what hour. My father stood there, backlit by the hallway light, looking like a shadow. Like death itself. You've destroyed everything, he said. His voice wasn't angry anymore. It was empty. Hollow. Do you understand that? Our family's reputation. Sheikh Abdullah has demanded compensation for the humiliation. The religious authorities are calling for your trial. You've destroyed us. No, I said quietly. I freed myself. There's a difference. He stepped into the room. Closed the door behind him. And for a moment, just a moment, his mask slipped. Why? He asked. And he sounded genuinely confused. Like he couldn't comprehend how his perfectly controlled daughter had shattered. I gave you everything. Wealth. Security. A good marriage. Why wasn't it enough? Because you never gave me the one thing I actually needed, I said. What? Love. Real love. Not control disguised as protection. Not ownership disguised as care. Actual love. The kind that sees me as a person, not property. His face hardened again. The moment of humanity gone. You're dead to me, he said. Legally, I can have you executed for apostasy. But I won't. Because that would make you a martyr. Instead, you're nothing. You don't exist. No family. No money. No protection. You leave this house, and you're on your own. In Saudi Arabia. A woman alone. An apostate. See how long your Jesus protects you then. He thought it was a threat, a curse. But I heard it as a promise, as permission. Thank you, I said. He blinked, confused. Thank you for setting me free. His jaw clenched. He wanted to hit me. I could see it. But something, maybe the memory of his hand freezing in the air at the wedding, stopped him. You have 2 hours, he said. Take nothing. Bring nothing. Just leave. If you're still here after that, I'll call the religious police myself. He left. The door stayed unlocked this time. Because I wasn't a prisoner anymore. I was in exile. I had no plan. No money, my father had made sure of that. No passport, that was locked in his safe. No phone. No resources. Just me, my ruined wedding dress, and a Bible. If this were a movie, this is where I'd have a clever escape plan. A secret ally. A dramatic rescue. But this was real life. And real life is messy, eh? I walked out of that basement room. Through the hallways of the palace I'd grown up in. Past rooms full of memories, my childhood bedroom, the library where I'd learned to read Quran, the dining room where my father had announced my wedding. Servants saw me. Looked away quickly. They'd been told, clearly. Told I didn't exist anymore. Told not to help me. But one didn't look away. Ahmed. Our former driver. The one who'd been fired for smiling at me. He was working in the kitchen, demoted, I realized. Punishment for his kindness. When he saw me, his eyes widened. Princess. Not anymore, I said softly. I need help, Ahmed. I need to get out. Out of this house. Out of Saudi Arabia. I have nothing. But I need. He looked around nervously. Then made a decision. My cousin, he whispered rapidly. He works for the Filipino embassy. Underground network. They help people like you. Apostates. Converts. Runaways. Meet me at the back service entrance in 10 minutes. I'll get you there. Ahmed, you'll lose your job. Your visa. They'll. Jesus is worth it, he said simply. And smiled. That same grandfatherly smile that had gotten him fired. You're a believer? For 5 years, he whispered. Secret. Hidden. But yes. And I'm not letting my sister in Christ die here. 10 minutes. Back entrance. Be ready. He disappeared into the kitchen. I stood there, stunned. Jesus had already provided. Before I even asked. I made it to the back entrance. Changed out of my wedding dress in a storage closet, found a servant's abaya, plain black, anonymous. Stuffed my Bible under it. Ahmed was waiting with a beat-up Toyota. Not a palace car. His own vehicle. Get in. Quickly. I did. We pulled out of the palace compound just as the evening call to prayer echoed across Riyadh. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. But I wasn't praying to Allah anymore. I was praying to Jesus. Thanking him for Ahmed. For provision. For protection. Ahmed drove fast, taking side streets, avoiding main roads. He knew we were on borrowed time. My father would realize I'd left early. Would send people looking. Where are we going? I asked. Safe house, he said. Expatriate compound. Filipinos. Christians. They have a network. They'll hide you. Get you documents. Get you out of the country. How long have you been doing this? Long enough to know Jesus protects his own, Ahmed said. Smiled at me in the rearview mirror. You were brave today, Princess. Sorry, Amira. That miracle. With the Bible. Everyone's talking about it. They are. Videos are everywhere. Someone recorded it. Spread it on WhatsApp before they could shut it down. Thousands have seen it. Maybe more. You became famous today. I didn't know if that was good or bad. Famous meant visible. Visible meant dangerous. But it also meant testimony. Meant others would see what Jesus had done. Maybe that was worth the danger. We reached the compound after 20 minutes of frantic driving. Gates. Security. But Ahmed knew the code. We drove in. A small apartment building. Modest. Working-class housing for expatriate workers. Ahmed led me to apartment 3B. Knocked 3 times. Paused. Knocked twice more. A code. The door opened. A Filipino woman, maybe 50, with kind eyes and tired smile. Another one, she said. Another one, Ahmed confirmed. This is Amira. She needs help. Urgently. The woman, her name was Maria, I learned later, pulled me inside. Hugged me. Actually hugged me. A stranger embracing me like I was family. Welcome, sister, she said. You're safe here. Jesus brought you home. Home. I broke down. Just completely fell apart in this stranger's arms, sobbing like a child. All the fear, all the adrenaline, all the shock of the last few days crashing over me at once. Maria held me. Rocked me gently. Whispered prayers in Tagalog and English mixed together. When I finally stopped crying, she led me to a small room. A mattress on the floor. A cross on the wall. Simple. Basic. Beautiful. Rest, she said. We'll talk about next steps tomorrow. For tonight, just rest. You're safe. He's got you. I lay down on that mattress, still wearing the borrowed abaya, clutching my Bible. And for the first time in weeks, I slept. The next few days were a blur. Maria's apartment was part of an underground railroad, that's literally what they called it. A network of believers helping people escape persecution in restrictive countries. They fed me. Gave me clothes. Let me shower. I cried in that shower, watching the makeup and hairspray and perfume from my wedding wash down the drain. Washing away the old life. And they told me the reality of my situation. Your father has declared you dead, Maria explained gently. Not literally. But legally. You have no passport. No documents. No identity. If you're caught, if the religious police find you, they can arrest you for apostasy. The penalty is death. I know, I said. But we can get you out, she continued. We have contacts. People who forge documents. Smugglers who move apostates across borders. It takes time. And money. I don't have money. We do, Maria said simply. Donations. From believers around the world who support this work. You're not the first we've helped. You won't be the last. She showed me photos on her phone. Other women. Other apostates. Some who'd made it to freedom. Others who'd been caught. One photo made me freeze. A young woman. Maybe 20. Beautiful. Smiling in the after photo, safe in another country, wearing a cross necklace, free. That's Fatima, Maria said softly. We got her out 8 months ago. She's in the Philippines now. Working. Alive. Free. She wants to be a missionary. To go back someday and help others. She wants to come back. When you've been freed from chains, you want to free others, Maria said. That's what Jesus does. He doesn't just save us for ourselves. He saves us to be part of his rescue mission. I stared at that photo. At Fatima's smile. I wanted that. Not just freedom for myself, but to be part of freeing others. How long until I can leave? I asked. 2 weeks. Maybe 3. We need to forge your documents. Find a route. Time it right. And then where do I go? Where do you want to go? I thought about that. I'd never been asked what I wanted. Never in my entire life. Somewhere I can tell my story, I said finally. Somewhere I can testify about what Jesus did. So others know, he's real. He saves. He performs miracles. Maria smiled. Squeezed my hand. Then that's where we'll send you. Those 2 weeks were the strangest of my life. Hiding in plain sight. Learning to be invisible in a way I'd never had to before. Not the invisible of oppression. The invisible of strategic survival. Maria taught me how to move. How to dress. How to blend in with other Filipino workers. We dyed my hair darker. I wore colored contacts. Transformed from a Saudi princess into a Filipino domestic worker. It saved my life. Because my father did send people looking. I saw them twice, security from our palace, showing my photo to people in the compound, asking questions. Each time, I walked right past them wearing my disguise. Each time, they looked right through me. Jesus hid me in plain sight. But the hardest part wasn't the hiding. It was watching Maria and the others risk everything for me. Their visas. Their jobs. Their safety. Why? I asked Maria one night. Why risk all this for someone you don't even know? She looked at me like I'd asked why the sun rises. Because Jesus risked everything for me, she said simply. I was dead. Lost. Enslaved to sin. And he saved me. Gave me new life. How can I do anything less for his children? That's when I understood. This was discipleship. This was the church. Not a building. Not an institution. But people, ordinary, broken, beautiful people, loving each other because Jesus first loved them. I was seeing the gospel lived out in real time. And it was more beautiful than anything I'd ever witnessed in 23 years of religious ritual. On day 16, Maria came to me with a passport. Filipino. My photo, but a different name. A different identity. A different life. This is you now, she said. Memorize everything. Your birthday. Your hometown. Your story. If anyone asks, you're a domestic worker returning home after finishing your contract. I studied that passport. The fake name. The fabricated history. And I thought, this is resurrection. The old Amira died. This new person is who I'm becoming. There's a flight tomorrow night, Maria said. To Manila. From there, we'll connect you with churches. Ministries. People who can help you start over. Tomorrow. Freedom was one day away. I should have been excited. Relieved. Instead, I felt sad. Because leaving meant saying goodbye to Maria. To Ahmed. To the network of believers who'd risked everything for me. I'll miss you, I whispered. Maria pulled me into a hug. We'll see each other again, she said. If not here, then in eternity. And sister? Your story isn't over. It's just beginning. Jesus didn't save you just to hide. He saved you to shine. So go. Shine. Tell the world what he did. Make your suffering count. The next night, wearing my disguise, carrying my fake passport and my real Bible, I walked through the airport. Past security. Past checkpoints. My heart pounding so hard I thought it would give me away. But no one stopped me. No one questioned me. I boarded that plane. Found my seat. Buckled in. And as we lifted off from Saudi soil, as Riyadh's lights disappeared beneath me, I felt it. Freedom. Complete, overwhelming, impossible freedom. I pressed my face to the window and wept. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Jesus had done it. Had brought me out. Had kept his promise. The princess in the golden cage was dead. The woman flying toward her destiny was alive. I landed in Manila at 4:37 a.m. Dawn breaking over a city I'd never seen, in a country I'd never imagined I'd call refuge. The humidity hit me the moment I stepped off the plane. Thick. Warm. So different from the dry heat of Saudi Arabia. Everything smelled like rain and exhaust and something frying, street food, I'd learn later. And noise. So much noise. Voices. Traffic. Life happening loudly, openly, without fear. I stood in that airport, clutching my fake passport and my real Bible, and I felt something I'd never felt before. Possibility. Not safety, not yet. I was still technically illegal, still using forged documents, still technically a fugitive. But possibility. The possibility that maybe, just maybe, I could build a life that was actually mine. A woman was waiting for me at arrivals, holding a sign that said Maria's friend. She was Filipina, young, with a bright smile and a cross necklace visible over her t-shirt. Wearing Jesus publicly. Freely. I almost cried just seeing that. "Amira?" she asked quietly. I nodded. "Welcome home, sister. I'm Grace. Let's get you somewhere safe." That first month was survival. Learning a new language, Tagalog mixed with English. Learning new customs. How to use money I'd never had to handle myself. How to cook, I'd never cooked a day in my life. Servants had done everything. How to ride public transportation. How to exist as a person instead of as property. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. The church, a small Pentecostal congregation in a working-class neighborhood, took me in. Not just with shelter, though they gave me that too. But with family. Real family. The kind that argues and laughs and prays together and means it. They didn't treat me like a project or a charity case. They treated me like a sister. Like I belonged. For the first time in my life, I belonged. I started attending services. And listen, if you've only ever experienced Islamic prayer, rigid and ritualistic and in a language most people don't even understand, then experiencing spirit-filled worship is like stepping from black and white into full color. People raised their hands, sang with their whole bodies, wept openly, laughed, danced, spoke in tongues, which terrified me at first until someone explained it's just the Holy Spirit praying through us when we don't have words. And I thought, this is what it means to be alive. This is what it means to worship someone who loves you, not someone you're afraid of. One Sunday, the pastor, Pastor Ben, a kind man with gentle eyes and a booming voice, asked if anyone had a testimony to share. My heart started pounding. I'd been there 6 weeks. I'd told my story to a few people privately. But publicly? I felt Jesus whisper, "Tell them." So I stood. Walked to the front. Took the microphone with shaking hands. And I told them everything. I didn't leave anything out. The golden cage. My father. The forced marriage. Finding the Bible. Jesus appearing in my room. The miracle at the wedding. The escape. By the time I finished, the entire church was crying. Not sad crying. That kind of crying that comes from witnessing God's power. From seeing proof that He still moves. Still saves. Still performs miracles. When I finished, people rushed forward. Hugged me. Prayed over me. Prophesied over me words about my future, about how God was going to use my story to set captives free, about how what the enemy meant for evil, God was turning for good. I believed them. Because I'd already seen it happening. Pastor Ben pulled me aside after the service. "Amira," he said, "you need to tell this story to more people. Not just us. The world needs to hear it." "How?" I asked. "I'm nobody. I have no platform." "No. You have Jesus," he interrupted gently. "And you have a testimony. That's more powerful than any platform. Let me make some calls." Within 2 months, everything changed. A ministry that worked with persecuted Christians heard my story. They helped me get legal asylum status. Real documents this time. A real identity. I was no longer hiding. They connected me with a media ministry. People who record testimonies and share them online. YouTube. Facebook. Wherever people are searching for hope. Your story could reach millions, they told me. Muslims who are questioning. Christians who need encouragement. People who think miracles don't happen anymore. Are you willing? I thought about Maria's words, make your suffering count. Yes, I said. I'm willing. We recorded my testimony over 3 days. Cameras. Lights. Professional everything. They edited it. Added subtitles in multiple languages. Arabic. English. Urdu. Farsi. Languages I'd never heard of, reaching people in countries I'd never been to. They uploaded it on a Tuesday afternoon. By Wednesday, it had 100,000 views. By Friday, 1 million. Within 2 weeks, over 5 million people had watched my story. 5 million people heard about Jesus appearing in my room. About the Bible not burning. About the miracle that set me free. And the messages started coming. Thousands of messages. From all over the world. Muslims saying, I've been questioning too. Your story gave me courage. Ex-Muslims saying, I thought I was alone. Thank you for speaking up. Christians saying, I'd stopped believing in miracles. You reminded me God is still active. Still powerful. Still saving. But the most powerful messages came from Saudi Arabia itself. Women, so many women, reaching out through encrypted apps, anonymous accounts, desperate voices crying out from the same darkness I'd escaped. Help me. I'm trapped too. Is Jesus real? Can he save me too? I want what you have. How do I find him? I read those messages and I wept. Because I remembered. I remembered being that desperate. That trapped. That hopeless. And I answered every single one I could. It's been 3 years now. 3 years since I walked out of my father's house and into freedom. I live in a small apartment in Manila. Nothing fancy. Nothing like the palace I grew up in. I have a used couch. A kitchen table. A cross on my wall. And more joy in this tiny space than I ever had in all that marble and gold. I work with the ministry now. Full time. Helping other refugees. Other apostates. Other women escaping the same systems that almost destroyed me. I counsel them online. I share resources. I connect them with underground networks. I pray with them. And I tell them over and over until they believe it, that Jesus is real. That he sees them. That he loves them. That he can save them just like he saved me. Some make it out. Some don't. Some are caught. Some disappear. And every time I lose one, every time I hear about another woman killed for leaving Islam or refusing a marriage, I weep. But then I remember, I'm alive. I'm free. And my life, my testimony, is proof that escape is possible. That Jesus is stronger than any system, any law, any threat. My very existence is a miracle. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure as many people as possible know about it. I haven't spoken to my family since I left. My mother reached out once, through an encrypted message, terrified and anonymous. Just to say she was glad I was alive. That she loved me. That she couldn't leave, but she was glad I did. I told her I loved her too. And that Jesus loved her. And that the door was always open if she ever wanted to walk through it. She never responded. But I'm still praying. Still hoping. Because the same God who saved me can save her too. My father? I heard through networks that he had a stroke. Not fatal. But debilitating. He's weak now. The powerful man who ruled with an iron fist, reduced to needing help to walk. And you know what? I prayed for him. I actually prayed for his salvation. Because that's what Jesus does. He transforms our hate into love. Our bitterness into compassion. Our desire for revenge into prayers for redemption. I don't know if my father will ever repent. Ever believe. Ever accept that the daughter he tried to destroy is now praying for his soul. But I'm going to keep praying anyway. Because miracles happen. I'm living proof. Now I need to talk to you. Yes, you. The person watching this video right now. Maybe you're Muslim. Maybe you've been questioning. Maybe you've felt that same emptiness I felt, praying prayers that bounce off the ceiling, following rules that crush your spirit, wondering if there's more to God than fear and obligation. Let me tell you, there is. His name is Jesus. Isa. The one the Quran calls a prophet but who is actually so much more. He's not just a messenger. He's the message. He's not just pointing to God. He is God. God in flesh. God who stepped down from heaven because he loved you too much to leave you in darkness. And he's calling you. Right now. Just like he called me in that palace bedroom. Just like he saved me at that wedding. He's calling you by name. Not by your title. Not by your family. Not by your religion. By your name. The name he gave you before you were born. The name that matters. Maybe you're Christian. Maybe you've been following Jesus for years. But maybe you've started to doubt. Started to wonder if he's really still active, still powerful, still doing miracles. Let my story be your reminder, he is. He absolutely is. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. The same Jesus who appeared to me appears to others. The same Jesus who protected the Bible in fire still protects his word today. The same Jesus who set me free is setting others free right now, this very moment, all over the world. Don't lose faith. Don't grow cold. Don't let the routine of religion steal the reality of relationship. Or maybe you're not religious at all. Maybe you're an atheist, an agnostic, someone who's rejected God entirely because of what you've seen religion do. I understand. I almost went there myself. Because religion, human systems of control and power dressed up as devotion, is toxic. Destructive. Deadly. But Jesus isn't religion. He's the opposite of religion. He's relationship. He's freedom. He's love that doesn't control but liberates. And he's real. I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I'm asking you to test it. To pray, even if you don't believe, and say, Jesus, if you're real, show me. I'm listening. He will. He showed me. He'll show you. I want to pray with you right now. All of you. Wherever you are. Whatever your background. If you want what I have, not the platform, not the story, not the fame, but the relationship, the freedom, the peace that comes from knowing Jesus, then pray this with me. Out loud if you can. In your heart if you can't. Say it like you mean it. Because he hears. He's listening. Jesus, I don't have all the answers. I don't understand everything. But I want to know you. The real you. Not religion. Not rules. You. I've been in darkness. I've been trapped. I've been searching for something real, something true, something that can actually satisfy the hunger in my soul. If you're real, show me. If you love me, I need to feel it. If you can save me, please, save me. I turn away from everything that's held me captive. Religion. Fear. Control. Sin. All of it. I turn to you. Come into my life. Make yourself real to me. Set me free like you set Amira free. I believe you died for me. Rose for me. Are alive right now, listening to me. Save me, Jesus. I'm yours. From this moment on, I'm yours. Amen. If you just prayed that, sincerely, from your heart, then congratulations. You just became part of the family of God. You're my brother. My sister. You're saved. Born again. Resurrected from death to life. And I need you to do something immediately. Don't keep this secret. Don't hide. I know it's scary. I know there might be consequences. But silence is how darkness wins. Testimony is how light spreads. Tell someone. Find a church. Find other believers. Connect with ministries that help new converts, especially if you're in a dangerous country. There are resources. There are people willing to help. You don't have to do this alone. Message me. Seriously. The ministry I work with has contact information in the description of this video. Reach out. Let us know you prayed. Let us connect you with help. With discipleship. With community. Because Jesus doesn't just save you and leave you alone. He saves you into family. Into the body of Christ. Into a community of broken, beautiful, redeemed people who will walk with you through whatever comes next. My story didn't end with my escape. It began there. Every day I'm alive is another chapter. Another testimony. Another opportunity to point people to Jesus. Some days are hard. I still have nightmares sometimes. I still grieve what I lost, my family, my home, my old life. Even though that life was a cage, it was familiar. And grief doesn't always make sense. But then I remember what I gained. Jesus. Freedom. Purpose. Joy. Real, anchored, unshakable joy that doesn't depend on circumstances. And I think every chain broken was worth it. Every tear shed was worth it. Every moment of terror was worth it. Because I'm free. And I'm helping others find freedom. That's what matters. That's what will echo into eternity. Not the palace I left behind. Not the wealth I'll never have again. Not the family name I lost. But the souls saved. The lives transformed. The people who see my testimony and think, maybe Jesus is real. Maybe he can save me too. 3 years ago, I was standing in a wedding dress, terrified, about to be sold to a man I didn't love. Trapped in a system that saw me as property. Facing a future of slow death disguised as marriage. Today, I'm standing in freedom. Serving Jesus. Helping others escape the darkness I escaped. If he can do that for me, a Saudi princess with no resources, no plan, no way out, he can do it for you. Whatever you're facing right now. Whatever cage you're trapped in. Whatever seems impossible. Jesus specializes in impossible. He appeared to me when I was alone. He performed a public miracle when I needed vindication. He hid me in plain sight when I was being hunted. He provided people, strangers, to risk their lives for mine. He got me across borders, through airports, into freedom. He did all of that. And he's not done yet. He's still moving. Still saving. Still setting captives free. And if you let him, he'll do it for you too. So here's my challenge to you. Whether you prayed that prayer or not. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic. Don't let my story be just another video you watch and forget. Let it change you. Let it provoke you. Let it inspire you. If you're trapped, get out. Find help. Reach out. Escape is possible. I'm proof. If you're free, help others. Don't waste your freedom on comfort. Use it to liberate others. That's what it's for. If you're doubting, test it. Pray. Seek. Search. Jesus said, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. He meant it. Try him. And if you know Jesus already, don't take it for granted. Don't let your faith become routine. Remember the miracle of your own salvation. Remember you were once dead and are now alive. And let that reality fuel your passion, your worship, your mission. Because the world is full of people just like I was. Trapped. Desperate. Dying slowly in golden cages. And they need to see Jesus. Not religion. Not rules. Not another system. Jesus. The real, living, miracle-working, chain-breaking, life-giving Jesus. And he's asking you to be the one who tells them. I'll end with this. That night in my bedroom when Jesus appeared to me, when I was broken and hopeless and ready to give up, he said something I'll never forget. He said, I see you. That's all some of you need to hear right now. Just that. You're not invisible. You're not forgotten. You're not too far gone. He sees you. Right now. in your pain, in your questions, in your cage, in your darkness. He sees you. He knows your name. And he's reaching out his nail-scarred hand. All you have to do is take it. Take his hand. Trust his love. Follow his voice. And watch, just watch, what he does next. Because if he can turn a Saudi princess into a missionary, a golden cage into a testimony, and a death sentence into resurrection, then there's nothing he can't do. Nothing. My name is Amira. I was a prisoner. Now I'm free. I was dead. Now I'm alive. I was lost. Now I'm found. And it's all because of Jesus. That's my story. That's my testimony. That's my life. And I'm praying, right now, as this video ends, that it becomes yours too. In Jesus' name. Amen.